She saw me coming up, and I was just sitting here recording her in the background, not talking for a couple of minutes. I cut the time off so you wouldn't have to sit there through the silence. But now she's coming out in the trail like, okay, you're here. I know it's story time. Where's my story? I'm getting to it. Make sure to keep getting my 6 because, as you know, we might have a lot more than her join us in the background to hear the story. Potentially. So here's the story. Something that happened this morning. About 4 months ago, 3 months ago, when this whole COVID-19 lockdown thing started, there was something I noticed that I thought was good, but I didn't say anything about it because, people were just losing their minds when this thing was new. They're still losing their minds, a lot of them. But I was going to talk about something that because I've just spent my life looking for the good and the bad, because, things that happen are neither good or bad. It's how we view them. Okay. I've mentioned before an author. Okay. Are you happy now? She's more satisfied. She's listening. There's a human person named Eckhart Tolle or Tolle. I used to call him Eckhart Tolle, but somebody with that same last name corrected me in the comment section on a video and said that it's Eckhart Tolle. Said they have the same last name and it's always pronounced wrong. So I'm sorry. I'm probably, crucifying the name again. But I've read a couple of his books. The Power of Now was the first one. And then I forget the second one. I just read it a couple of months ago. But he gives an example. He tells a story in there about how the things that happen really are not good or bad. It's the emphasis we place on them. And he says, there was a guy, the story goes, there was a guy who won a sports car. It was like a very expensive sports car. He won it in a raffle. So his friends come up to him after he wins the sports car. He says, oh, this is great. You just won this very expensive, fancy sports car. This is such a good thing. It's wonderful. And the guy says, well, I don't know. And they're like, what do you mean you don't know? It's great. You can never afford to buy this thing. He says, okay. Well, so anyway, a couple of weeks go by and he's out riding in his new sports car that he won. And she's enthralled. She's moving her ears around. She likes it. So he comes up to a red light and he stops. Light turns green. He looks both ways, nothing coming. He starts to go. Well, this drunk driver comes blaring through the other part of the intersection, not stopping for the light, hits him, totals his car, puts him in the hospital. He's in the hospital. He's got both legs are broken. His arms are broken. His friends come to see him and they say, oh, this is terrible. This is such a bad thing. I can't believe this happened to you. It's bad, bad, bad. And the guy says, mate. I guess she thought it was a bad thing. Or maybe someone or something else is joining us because we've seen her enough in these videos to know she's not scared. I don't know how the depth perception of this phone is picking it up, but she was only 20 yards away from me. I think it's time we venture into the potential Bigfoot Sasquatch forest here as I finish this story. So, his friends come to the hospital and they say, oh, this is terrible. You got hit by a drunk driver. Now you're all laid up in the hospital. Your legs are broken. Your arms are broken. This is bad, 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 bad. The creepy factor just raised a notch. So let's do this slowly and methodically. And the guy says, well, I don't know. They're like, you don't know? What do you mean you don't know? This is terrible. Well, that night, while he's in the hospital, these massive rainstorms move in out of nowhere. And he had lived on a hill, and the storms caused a massive mudslide. And at 2 a.m., the mudslide came down and just engulfed his house, buried it under 20 feet of mud. There would have been no time for him to have gotten out had he been in there because there was no warning. Well, he was perfectly safe in the hospital. So the story, you could go on and on with this story. And the point is, seemed it was a good thing that he won a sports car, but it ended up hospitalizing him a couple weeks down the road. being hospitalized seemed terrible, but it ended up saving his life. So it's not that anything that happens to us is good or bad. It's how we view it, and it's how we react to it. So what I was going to say about 4 months ago, when the world was losing its mind with this COVID thing coming out, and again, I'm not making light of it, okay? Don't put words in my mouth. Let's get a different angle here. But I noticed a big uptick in the number of people who started to exercise. You would see people out there for a while. I mean, most of it was just temporary. It didn't last long. You could see people exercising that you knew didn't exercise because either, well, you just knew who they were and you knew the lifestyle they lived, or it was apparent by looking at them that they did not exercise regularly, okay? Well, around this time, make sure we can cover all our angles here. Watch for movement of any kind back there. So around this time, that's interesting. Keep your eyes on that. I started noticing a guy that just lives a little ways up the road from me, who is a very large guy, okay? He's walking past the house, sweating profusely, looked like he was in agony. I almost wanted to kind of like, hey, buddy, you need some help. But I thought, well, no, he's just, ooh, look at that. Keep your eyes on it. I thought, nah, he's one of these folks that are, he's working from home now. And he's like run out of, I don't know, reruns to watch. So he's going out and getting some exercise. This is a great thing. Well, whereas most of the folks that I noticed that were doing this lasted a couple days or dropped off or have been very inconsistent, this guy's been getting out there every day. Okay, this was like 4 months ago. If I had taken a picture of this guy and showed it to you, if I were showing it to you today and then showing you a picture of what he looks like today, you wouldn't recognize it. Or him. You wouldn't recognize him because it looks like two different people. And this has been 4 months. Okay? And this guy's not a young pup. He's knocking on the door of 60. He was big, and now he's looking pretty fit. It's amazing what this guy's done in 4 months. So, over the last 4 months, I'd be out doing my morning runs. Sometimes I'd run 3 miles, sometimes 4. I've upped to like just 30 minutes. I run by time, not necessarily distance, because I'm not racing anybody anymore. Except time, I guess, and myself, but aren't we all? So I was out for 30 minutes this morning running, and I've seen this guy so many mornings, never gotten his name, never really talked to him, just high and by, were blowing by. So I seen him this morning at my turnaround spot. I ran 15 minutes out, which was probably 2.25-ish miles. I'm turning around and come back. So just as I'm getting ready to get exactly to where I turn around, he's there walking. I see him so many mornings walking, and he's limping. I can tell he's hurt. Okay, we're going to start looking up towards the top of the hill here. We have a tendency to be flanked here, as y'all know. Let's see if anybody or anything's doing any flanking. So I'm like, are you okay? And he said, I don't think so. I was like, oh, that's not good, because usually people say, yeah, I'm fine. It's all good. It's got a cramp. So I go up, I turn around, come back by, and I said, are you going to be able to make it back? Because he was probably 3 miles away from his house. And he said, I don't think I can. I said, all right, I'm gonna, when I get home, I'm going to jump in the truck and come back. If you're okay, you keep on trucking. If not, jump in, I'll give you a ride. So I come home, I finish my run. I usually walk for 10 or 15 minutes to cool down, but I can't. I go in the house, I get my keys, I come back out. And so my son, Daniel, is out riding his bike, and he tries to talk to me. I said, I can't really talk to you right now, buddy. I got to go get this guy. There's a guy up the road walking, and he's injured. I need to get him and help him. I need to bring him back. And he said, wow, that's really nice. You're so nice for doing that. And I cringed. I cringed. And I felt like not going up there and getting the guy and helping him. And I stopped and I said, wait a minute. No. This is an opportunity to talk to your son about being nice and possessing character. And they're two entirely different things. And this is as I see it, okay? I stopped and I said, Daniel, I'm not going up to help this guy to be nice, okay? I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do. This guy needs help, and no one else is stopping to help him. So I get in the truck, I go up. The guy hadn't made it very far at all. So he's still, he's there by the side of the road. I turn around, he jumps in. In the truck, it was like a 4-minute ride, but he just wouldn't have been able to make it. So I enjoyed talking with him, got to know his name, gave him mine, found out this dude is averaging 6 miles a day walking, and on Saturdays, he walks 16 miles. I just met a new role model. This guy getting a nasty cramp in his calf gave me the opportunity to make a new role model. I mean, here's a guy completely changing his life because something bad happened. There's a worldwide pandemic now, like the world hasn't seen in more than a century. He's forced to work from home like so many people. And when he's run out of things to do around the house, to fill his time, he's taken up walking. And this guy's probably lost 60 pounds in 4 months. And he was telling me about how he has more energy. And it's just amazed him how the more active he's become, the more things he does, the more energy he has to do them. And I knew this. I mean, I've been, an exercise guy I used to be a competitive distance runner, but it's converted to just exercising in my post-middle age here because I'm just not fast enough to be competitive anymore. But yeah, the more you do, the more you get out there and do, the more energy you have to do. It's amazing. So anyway, I came back and I talked to Daniel and I said, Daniel, I said, listen, I didn't do that to be nice because, and this is terrible. And this is where I will tell you, I will admit this. I am wrong in this regard. If you're nice, it doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're nice. Unfortunately, I spent many, many years living in an environment where if you were nice, you were viewed as weak and you were taken advantage of. I'm no longer in that environment, but I am leery of just letting my guard down too much because everywhere you'll have people that'll do that. I mean, I've had it here, you had people come around kind of being annoying, spouting off about all their worldly views, political opinions, and worldly fears. And you try to take the high road, you turn the other cheek. You don't tell them how much of a whatever they really, but and the more you do that and the nicer you try to come across, the weaker they view you as being. And I'm an empath. I can't do that. And I've just had to finally just tell people where they can go and what they can do when they get there. And that's unfortunate. Nice does not equal weak. And I know that there are people out there, myself included, who have really shut out a lot of really wonderful people because of past relationships with a lot of the negative Nellies, Debbie Downers, and jittery Jays they should have never let in. Okay? I know, and that's something I'm working on. I'm trying to get there. But I wanted to make sure that my son understood I did what I did with this guy, not to be nice, but because it was the right thing to do. And I told him, I said, Daniel, I bet you 20 or 30 other people passed this guy on the road, in their cars, in their trucks, whatever, and they didn't stop to help. No one else stopped to help him. I asked him. And I said, Daniel, had that guy been, say, downtown, on the downtown mall in Charlottesville, out the town when we live outside of there, and he was obviously injured and he was limping, everybody that passed him this morning and didn't stop to help probably would have stopped to help if they were down there in that environment. And my son said, well, why is that? And I said, well, because they would have wanted to be nice. And he says, I'm confused. I said, good, you're supposed to be. I said, listen, now there are nice people out there who are nice because they're nice. But there's a lot of people out there who are only nice when they're being observed, when they have an audience, when there's another group of people, in this example, in the downtown mall, having coffee, eating in the restaurants outside, walking their $10,000 dogs up and down the mall. They'll be nice then because there's so many people there to see them being nice. Look at me. Look at me practicing a random act of kindness. Practice is exactly what you're doing because you don't practice if it's real. You live it. And you don't do it for acknowledgement. And I'm telling you this story not for acknowledgement because I want to pass on the message I gave my son. And he already knew, so somebody already knew about this. This was not a random act of kindness. This was an instance of stepping in and doing the right thing because it was the right thing to do. And I said, Daniel, character, which is different than being nice, means doing the right thing even if no one's watching. And he says, oh, yeah, I get it. And so anyway, that was one of those little life lessons I thought I could use. the opportunity. I mean, I remember when I was a competitive distance runner in college, I would run up to 70 miles a week. That's an average of 10 miles a day. And most of it was at 6-minute mile pace or faster. I remember being out 5 miles away from where I lived and spraining the outer bone in my left foot. It was an injury that cost me 3 months, cost me the whole second half of my second year of track season in college. And I remember the people going by in the car. I remember them waving. I remember them looking back in the rearview mirror, and it was obvious I was hurt. I was not walking to cool down or as part of my workout. I was injured. And I saw them all looking back. I saw their taillights coming on. I saw them starting to slow. And I remember waving, thinking, oh, God, I hope they give me a ride. It's going to be a long walk with a sprained foot. That one stopped. But then when I saw them on campus, a couple of them were professors. Oh, are you okay? And well, that's an interesting question. Why are you asking me that question? Because if you're asking me if I'm okay, then you obviously know I was hurt. Oh, well, I saw you out, so, and you looked like you were hurt. I wasn't sure, but I figured, he's just, that guy, he's always running. He runs all the time. So I didn't want to interfere. But are you okay? So I know what it's like. I've been out there on the road limping miles away from where you're supposed to be and nobody's stopping. And I know what it's like getting frustrated when you're out in a secluded area like that and no one will stop because there's no one there to see him be nice. If you read Bigfoot Sasquatch Files Volume 1, you remember the last story in that book. It's a story that couldn't be told here on social media. That's a good example of, if you're going to do it, make sure it's real or don't waste your time. And by the way, thanks to everybody who's been reading Volume 2, and a huge thank you to everybody, the hundreds of you who've just in the last 24 hours picked up Isle of Capri, my novel, full-length novel, which is now available in print for the first time in 7 years. Thought I heard a very distant howl. It's getting to be that time when things up here change. Not so much for the safer. So with that said, I'm going to head down to the house. Dark's coming on soon. I got a lot more editing, writing, and other things to do. So thanks for being here with me for another story. I hope it made sense. I hope you got the point. It is, nice does not equal mean, or nice does not equal weak. But doing the right thing, because it's the right thing to do, isn't necessarily nice either. But somebody's got to do it. So thanks for being here for another episode of the PBS. The Potential Bigfoot Sasquatch Show.